Well, one of the biggest banks in the country announced it's shutting down all existing personal line of credit accounts and won't offer any new ones as well. Wells Fargo says it's making the move to simplify its product offerings, but what does this exactly mean for its customers? Here to help us sort it all out is our hip hop financial advisor, Rod Wilson of Wilson Insight. Welcome back to Start Your Day. Always great to see you. Let's talk about this because this bank's had some issues. But first, before we get into all of this, let's assume that some people don't know what a personal line of credit is. Break it all the way down because it's not necessarily just a lump sum loan. And how does it affect black people?
Yeah, well, thanks, guys, for having me again. I really appreciate that. Happy Friday. So a line of credit you can sort of compare to a credit card in that it's a revolving loan that you have outstanding to you, which means you can run it up, you can create a balance, and then when you can pay it off, bring the balance down, but you still have access to that amount of credit that's been extended to you, as opposed to a personal loan where they decide that they're going to give you a lump sum, $10,000, and when you pay it off, the loan is gone and you no longer have access to that credit. And the reason that this particular issue might affect some black folks is because, you know, everyone needs access to credit for emergencies. Your tire goes flat, your roof starts leaking, and these personal lines of credit typically have higher limits than you would get on a regular credit card, so that you can handle things that may happen with your vehicle or something around the house. But if you don't have access to that, then it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to handle those types of emergencies. And typically minority borrowers have less access to these types of lines of credit.
Yeah, I mean, and so Rob, it could be up to 100 grand, you know, a few $1,000s to 100 grand. I think Wells Fargo gave people like 60 days notice about these accounts. That's not much, particularly at this time when they're coming off of COVID. Things are sketchy. Kids have to go to college. They're depending on this access, and now it's gone. What options do they have?
Well, you know what, guys? First of all, I think it's important that we take note of who we're dealing with here in case people don't understand. So Wells Fargo is also the bank that was fined $175 million for steering minority borrowers into subprime loans, really terrible high interest loans, even though they qualify for better loans. This is also the bank whose CEO, Charlie Scharf, said, hey, we'd really like to hire some black folks and some minorities, but we just can't seem to find any of the quality people. And so this is who we're dealing with. So what are the options? Yes, people are really relying on these. If they get yanked this credit out from underneath them right in the middle of this situation, it's going to be difficult because this can affect your credit. Let's just say you had $100,000 outstanding and you had used $50,000 of it. Well, if they take that $50,000 away, now your credit utilization gets higher, and that could reduce your credit score. And if you're looking for a property right now or somewhere else where you need a good credit score, that could hurt your ability to do that transaction.
Wow. 3 things you don't mess with. You don't mess with my job. You don't mess with my family. Don't mess with my credit. Please don't mess with my credit. I work hard to get a good credit score. But here's the thing, though. Like, so this just happened. You're not doing anything wrong. You're making your payments on time, and then all of a sudden this happens, and then your credit score goes down. Are there any options that a customer may have to make sure that this doesn't happen?
Yeah, I think you do have some options. And so Wells Fargo, what they have said is that they will work with their customers to try to put you into another credit product. So that might be a credit card. It might be another personal loan. And so you should pursue that option to see if they can offer you something else. But listen, in my opinion, the way that this bank has acted, I don't think there's any reason that anyone, particularly people of color, should be dealing with Wells Fargo in 2021. Again, this is the bank that got fined $3 billion for opening up millions of fake accounts and charging fees on those. Guys, if you or I stole $5 for someone, they would throw the book at us, but these guys stole millions of dollars from their own customers. So if you're in a situation where they're yanking this line of credit from you, I would suggest that you try to go to another bank, Bank of America, JP Morgan. Take a look at the credit union in your community to see if they can offer you a similar product so that you can keep that credit utilization where you want it to be and so that it won't affect your credit report.
Yeah, Rob, you've been an advocate for saying diversify here, have some credit cards from different banks so that you're not just kind of like, beholden to one, in this case, Wells Fargo, because they've gotten a little funky here. What about mortgages, though? Because as you have preached, that's one of the biggest expenses that we incur as adults who want that American dream. So are the mortgage products from Wells Fargo also affected by this?
This particular decision by Wells Fargo is not going to affect anyone that has a mortgage. And you're much more protected when you have a mortgage with a bank, because that's a much more stringent contract that you have in place. They can't just wake up one day and decide, hey, we're going to take your mortgage away from you and take your property. As long as you keep making those payments, you will never, ever hear from that bank again once you have that mortgage. But if you do have something like a credit card, I would start looking at them with a little bit of a side eye, because banks all around the country, it's not just Wells Fargo, they do often reevaluate the credit quality of their customers when it comes to lines of credit like we're talking about and credit cards. So they could potentially reduce your outstanding credit on your credit card if they see some activity on your report that they don't necessarily think is advantageous to them, or they could close your account altogether. So with a mortgage, you're totally fine. You can sleep well at night. If you have a credit card, you might be a little bit more nervous if you're dealing with Wells Fargo.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that you can actually rely on when it comes to Wells Fargo. I want to go back because you basically said you shouldn't trust this bank, and you're a financial advisor. You said a whole word right there with everything that they've gone through and the things that they're still having issues with. Federal Reserve, somebody from the government. How come nobody's coming in to try and regulate these types of things and take controls to ensure that if you're a customer that you don't get, I don't even know what other word to use, but kind of messed over. I should just say it that way.
Well, that's a good question, Mike. And one of the reasons why I think that they're getting out of these lines of business, look, they're taking away personal lines of credit. They've gotten out in a big way in their auto lending business. So one of the reasons is because they were fined by the Federal Reserve, and they were also limited in the amount that they can have on their balance sheet, which I think is 1.9 trillion. And so they have to now be selective with the type of business that they take on because they've been limited as far as their balance sheet goes. And so I think they're getting more selective. Obviously, these personal lines of credit weren't the most profitable thing for them. So they'd rather use their limited resources and push those into assets and other products that can be more profitable for the business. So one of the reasons is because the Federal Reserve has come in, has regulated them, has made them say, listen, you have to get your controls in place first before we're going to allow you to expand your balance sheet. So there are, fortunately, some folks who are looking out for us. I don't think anyone is going to go to jail for what they did to all of their customers, but they are under the close watch of the Federal Reserve right now.
Yeah, Rob, some people need jail. You understand? So, some white collar people need jail. Okay, the real kind, not with the salad bar. Okay, you got it, because it seems like what you're saying is the feds swooped in. Yeah, they swooped in to help people. Okay, black victims, right? And then they pulled the reins back from Wells Fargo, and it's hurting. As a result, who's going to be the first to get hurt? Black people. So, we need you to keep an eye on it, because this is what you do. Okay, Rob Wilson.
Yes, you
Wilson
do.
Insight. Thank you so much for keeping it real with us.
Good weekend, brother.
Thanks for starting your day with us once again. Yeah, have a great weekend.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Make that money.